Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the game room. Happy 25th anniversary to the PlayStation as far as its US release is concerned. As I've mentioned on social media, I had much bigger plans for this, and life just got in the way. So I wanted to make this one a little bit more personal, more intimate, if you will. So, as far as the PlayStation is concerned, 25 years is a long time. And to understand just how crazy that is, I bought my PlayStation, my first PlayStation, in February of 1996 because Street Fighter Alpha 1 was being released to it. I was 20 years old. That means my favorite game system is now 5 years older than I was when I bought it. And if you're wondering where some of the gray hairs have come from, now you know. The PlayStation's entire existence is just one of the most crazy things ever. It was essentially born out of the ashes of the partnership with the Nintendo to make the Super Nintendo CD-ROM, and where it could have been disastrous like the CDI, the the I don't want to call it revenge, but the the reimagined and respirited Sony in thinking, hey, we can do this better ourselves. The shock waves from that sentiment are still being felt 25 years later in the industry, and it's insane. Like the PlayStation was home to so many new IPs at the time that we essentially take for granted nowadays, like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Tomb Raider. I mean, game series in modern times that have been influenced, like the Uncharted series, is clearly Tomb Raider, but with man parts. It's so crazy, and obviously, I haven't been able to play through the entire library normally. I've obviously I did it for the 5-second video, but for it to be 25 years later and I'm still finding games that I adore that I didn't think I would literally give 5 minutes to is just an absolutely amazing feeling to have for a game system. Now, like I said, this episode is going to be a little bit more subdued and pulled back, but I do have notes to read from. So if you hear the pen moving, that's what I'm keeping track of. Kind of the main focus, as far as talking about the PlayStation, is that in the year 2020, if you ignore the pandemics and the political strife and all the other crazy stuff going on, we have never been in a better time for the PlayStation as a system. And what I mean by that is, despite the games really not being found anywhere outside of maybe some Goodwills and family game stores, there has never been more options to actually play PlayStation games on your TV than there is at this moment. Between the backwards compatibility of the PS2 and the PS3, all the different HD cables coming out for the system, like the Retron cables, the Pound cables, all the good stuff, to right before this month, it was announced that they have now created an actual HDMI port that's soldered into the system's motherboard that gives you a direct HDMI signal, which is incredible. Like, I would love to get one done, but I can't afford it right now, so we'll get there. On top of that, you've got the Polymega coming out, and even despite all of its issues, as I've said before, it is what most people don't understand when they attack the Polymega is that it's not FPGA or whatever you want to call it. It's not this blah blah. They're missing the point. What the Polymega is a consumer-minded emulation station, like the Retron 5 is. As someone who owns a Raspberry Pi and is frustrated by it every time, to have a system where I can just literally plop in my game, let the system do its thing, and it's taken care of, is phenomenal. And that is something we will discuss more when I get the system in November. And believe me, I'll be putting that thing through the paces. But it is such an amazing time to be a PlayStation 1 fan. Whether you're hardcore like I am, or a hobbyist or casual, like it's just there's been no better time for the system than this year. Like, it's just absolutely incredible. Besides the hardware, as we've had the last two videos, there's also the ability for collectors to keep improving their games with the long box replacement cases have been like one of the most in demand required things in the last 20 years, especially for people like me with full sets. We are literally coming to the point where now, like, I would be shocked if people can't figure out how to make replacement plastic ridged long boxes and somehow get the artwork off carefully and reattached. It's just a beautiful time where we can keep the system looking fresh, both visually and productly, and it's just amazing. Productly? Is that a word? It's just fantastic. As we hit the 25-year mark for the system, and we've got the improved ways to play the games and backwards compatibility and stuff, there is something I've noticed, especially in doing the Living History project and getting games on site, and especially with Ball Breakers. Ball Breakers is a game I literally just finished like about a week before this video was being made, and eventually we'll get to a review video of it. In researching Ball Breakers for information for the episode, it's clear that the last maybe 2.5 years of the PlayStation's life in the 2002 to 2004 era, it's clear that most industry side peeps and businesses moved on from it because PlayStation 2 is all the rage. And it's terrifying to see how little information is really out there for these late released games. As a perfect example, Ball Breakers has Game Shark codes for it that allow you to unlock one of the characters and something else, but nowhere that I can find on the internet is the actual legit way to unlock that character normally. And when you realize how many of these late release games don't have that kind of information, like, as far as I know, I'm the first person to publicly tell you how to unlock cars and modes in racing. And I take that very seriously. And while this would be more on the Game-Rave side of things, I just want you guys to know that as we head towards the 50th anniversary and more gray hair for me, there's going to be a lot more done on the back end of Game-Rave to try and make sure we have all the information we need, not just from an archival purpose with dumping the ROMs and all the SLUS and PSRM numbers and variants, but actual information on the games. Like that's what's important to me, is just all the little stuff, the minutia, I guess, the granular details. And once I finally get all the games and demos and Lightspan on site, like, that's going to allow me more time to actually play and research and just have fun. And I cannot wait for that time frame. As far as anecdotal stories with the PlayStation, I've shared these sometimes in the idle chatters and so forth, but for people new to the channel who haven't watched the videos yet, when the PlayStation was first set up for pre-order, when you pre-ordered it, you got this demo disc. Here, now play it later. And this was probably one of the most brilliant marketing things ever imagined. Now, I didn't pre-order the PlayStation because I didn't have the money at the time, but a friend of mine who did gave me the demo because he didn't care about the music. And the way this worked is when you got home, you put this in a music CD player and you could listen to different tracks. There was, I believe it's Korn and a bunch of other guys. Yeah, Korn, Mother May I, and other people I still haven't heard of to this day. But when you actually got the PlayStation, instead of being a music CD, once you put this in, it gave you the option to check out all these really cool developer demos, like the famous dinosaur, seeing how it handles gradients and video quality. And to show that the system could do both, play it as a music CD and show you the stuff on screen, it was a marketing genius moment that eventually led to the PlayStation Underground, the PlayStation Magazine discs, and so forth. As I said, I bought the system in February 96 for this puppy. This is still my original, quote-unquote, day one copy of Street Fighter Alpha that I have played for 25 years. And to give you an idea of how hyped I was for this, when I ran into Chicago Ridge Mall to go buy my PlayStation, and EB Games and the other ones were sold out, so I thought I'd go to my friend's place, Gamer's Paradise. He wasn't there that day, but I bought the system anyway. Didn't realize this had been delayed it was either delayed a week or I was off a week when it was coming out. So I got the system home, set up the memory card and everything, and I basically just played the Purple Pix, PlayStation Pix demo disc for a week straight, and I have that one Wipeout track memorized by heart. And then a week later, I got this at EB Games in Chicago Ridge Mall as well. And to this day, I can still remember walking in with, I believe it was 55. It was either $55 or $65, and they rang it up, and I had like just enough. I was within like 14 cents of having just enough to finally pick this up. Had to go to work right after that, so literally drove home, got dressed, went to work, thought about nothing but this for 5 hours, and then when I finally got home, I played this till like 3 in the morning, and then had to go to school at like 7 in the morning. It was just absolutely crazy. Um, as the years went on, and I eventually realized I wanted the full set, the final game I needed for a full set, at least what was according to me, which included the collector's editions, was Spyro Trilogy. This was the last thing I needed, and I finally had the full set, one of every game at the time. And I actually had drawn a comic about it at the time where I didn't really know what to do then. And ever since then, it's been chasing variants, researching variants, sharing stories with you guys. And it's just been an absolutely phenomenal time. Um, like I said, I haven't had the chance to play all the games legitimately yet, but as far as personal, like, what games do I play? And, not just talk about here for the show. I always can go back to Street Fighter Alpha 3, Soul Blade, Builder's Block. Like, it's there are so many games on the PlayStation that you can just pick up and play, and I think that's incredible. And the fact that I can still to this day go back to a 25-year-old game and still enjoy it like it was day one is just a huge, props to the library and what Sony did with their developers and publishers and so forth. That being said, as far as the PlayStation 25th anniversary side is cornered, at the age of 43, and I'm 43, I have never felt more alive in my hobby. Like, I know people are afraid of growing old, and I know people are afraid of, losing, old game systems and, things in life and so forth. But I can tell you 100%, I have never felt more invested and enjoying and appreciating and discovering what the PlayStation has going for it. And I just want to bring you guys along for the ride. Like, I'll probably be doing this till, well, the Living History Project won't end until I'm like 47. So, I don't know what I'll be doing when I'm 50, but I'm pretty sure I'll be playing PlayStation. And I hope you guys are along for the ride. So, with the anniversary out of the way, as I did say in social media, this was also about Game-Rave and the future of the site. There's something to be said about doing something for fun and making sure it stays fun. And the way it stays fun is that you have to make sure it's never a job. And the website at times has felt like a job, but not to the point where I'd want to give up. Like, I love variant hunting, and I love exploring the games too much to ever give that up. But a couple months earlier, when I had the whole updating the server scenario, and it was discovered that 3,000 of you per month are visiting the site, like, I had no idea. Like, I literally had no idea. And if there's something I want Game-Rave to be, it's more than just a list. And what I mean by that is, if you look at my Google Analytics, the 3 most popular pages are literally the demo list, the master list, and I think the working designs page for the variants. And I want the site to be more than just a list. So I basically have mapped out, and I'll throw up an actual real graphic, but I actually have mapped out a roadmap of where I want to take the site and where I want to take you guys. The library is basically a giant swimming pool, and you just want to jump in and keep swimming and doing laps and finding out new new things to do in the pool, if you will. And with this roadmap, I think I have the proper pool for everyone to dive into. So here's what's going on. Phase 1 that we're still in is going to cover the Living History Project, and that's going to go through all the phases. Right now in Phase 1, I am trying to finish the backlog. The backlog is all the games that were on site at one point in any form, re-added to the new site after I had basically burned it to the ground to start fresh. Good news. The original backlog is done. The bad news is literally on the last game of the backlog, which was Final Fantasy VII, which is when I want to rescan in all the parts because reasons. It was discovered while looking at an archive.org save of my old website that I hadn't gotten to a game that wasn't in my folder of game scans. Quick research discovered that there was about 70 games that I didn't have the art assets to that I had made pages for that were on the old website. So backlog part 2 was actually re-scanning in, re-photoshopping, re-adding all this information to the games that apparently disappeared off a laptop drive or something like that. Those 70 games, we are now down to, I think, 37, and we're moving right away. I probably could have gotten it done, but the Living History Project for the back end of 2000 is ridiculous. So the really cool part about this is that when I finish the backlog and I finish out the year 2000 for the Living History Project, getting the upcoming games out and so forth, Game-Rave will be over 1,000 games on site, which means there would only be just under 300 to go in the Living History Project. That's insane. In all the previous iterations of the website, we have never gotten that close. In fact, I think once we hit 500 games on site, we blew past every iteration of the site. And I can tell from Google Analytics that you guys are using and, going through the site. Once I finally complete adding all the games, I can start actually playing them and adding in more info and trivia and variant guys. And I basically just want it to be that swimming pool that you guys can keep coming back to, swim through, and enjoy stuff. Also important in Phase 1, which actually should be finished today by the time I finish this video, is we will now have our own Discord server for you guys to hang out, chat, and so forth. I won't be there 24/7, but it will at least be a repository of people asking questions. I will have site updates. On the front of GameRave.com, at the bottom, you can see like the actual page additions, like game pages and so forth, but you don't see when I add a variant to a page or make a change. So here on Discord, one of the main channels will be site updates letting you know what I've added to the site so you can go and check it out. And it's just another way for you guys to like reach me aside from YouTube and social media and all that good stuff. Once Phase 1 is done, and that will be done basically once the backlog is done and once all the other games are added on for the Living History Project, there will be a soft start of Phase 2. Phase 2 is going to be adding all the demos I have to the website. And they will also include rebuilding the demo list page. It's currently right now the list is like if there were 3 variants of a game, it shows all 3 variants in the list. But once I get the game page made, I basically just reduce the list to just the base game, the base demo's name. And then once you click into it, then you can see the other variants and so forth. That will actually help shore up that page and make it a lot easier to navigate and so forth. There is a quality of life improvement that is in soft launch right now that will take me a while to do, but it's going to help you guys. In full disclosure, I really don't use mobile. I hate cell phones. I hate landline phones. And I'm strictly a laptop desktop guy as far as when I'm using the website. The only time I really use the website on my phone is if I'm at a store looking for a strategy guide I might need. And it wasn't until we had the hamburger button issue with the latest WordPress update that I actually took a hard look at the site on my phone, and it was like, wow, this looks like shit. So there's going to be 2 quality of life improvements. The first, if it's not done by the time you guys see this, is I've assembled a CSS layer So when you're looking at the website on a desktop or laptop, instead of 3 columns per page, it's going to be 2 now, which will allow the longer named games to look nice and not be on 2 lines. When you're on a mobile phone, redundant. If you're on a phone, the page will now appear single file. So it's not all this scrunched together, just horrible looking, blah, blah, blah. If you rotate your phone in the landscape mode, it will then go back to the 2 column view. So that way you have a really nice, crisp, easy to read application and page. Second, in trying to figure out what had gone wrong with the hamburger button, I discovered a misstep on my part in the original page designs for the tables. And what I mean by that is, if you go to a game's page and look at the data information table, a whole lot of pages in the very beginning, I had that table set as a specific pixel width. The problem is, on mobile, it doesn't conform it because it's a set pixel width. So like some of the information would actually be off page. So starting with games I had been adding, I think 2 weeks ago now, I have redesigned that table template so that on desktop it's now returned carriage, so it's a lot easier to read. And then on mobile, it's a different. I've reset the table widths with percentages so that it's a lot cleaner to read. The problem is, as far as the page tables go, I have to do that on a per page basis, which means I have to go through about 900 pages and change all that and correct that. So that will be a quality of life improvement that will just keep flowing through. But that way it's easier to read, it's easier to flow, it's all good. In phase 2, the main emphasis will be adding demos to the website, getting everything up. Once those demos are done, and this is the important part, this is why I'm working as fast as I can to get all the retail games on the website. As I start adding in the demos, I can list what's on the demo and automatically link to those game pages to give you guys more reading, more, swimming through the website, if you will. There's also a side project tied to that, but we'll get to that in a second. Once all of that's done is phase 3. And phase 3 of their website will be the absolute just holy crap moment. The main focus will be finishing up the Living History Project's scheduled pages. And then we get to Lightspan. Adding, for those that don't know, Lightspan was the educational games that were released to schools by a company named Lightspan, who's now Play-Doh, but I think even Play-Doh now got bought by somebody else. And these were never available at retail. They were only available through schools. And it's where the online connection CD came from that I talked about a couple years ago. As those are being added to the site, I'm now going to start, at that point, I'll start adding in actual site articles, both converting YouTube episodes to articles you can now read and flow through that will then have like the games mentioned to click through and check out, as well as brand new site-specific articles like all new subsets, genre subsets, new lists you can check out from a subset category. And there'll be an about page finally, like pages that are dedicated just to accessories, like a list of multi-tap games, and so forth. And then finally, and this is the most important part, but I can't really talk about it because I don't want to get anyone's hopes up because they are super, super long-term projects. There's going to be basically about 5 projects that 3 are near and dear to me. And I've been wanting to do this since I basically got the games that are involved in the situation, but it's I can't really say more than that. And right now the projects are Project Disco, Project Dizzy, Project Farm, Project Up One, and Project Bite. Dizzy I can actually share with you. In helping redump.org archive a bunch of the super rare stuff, I realized that one of my trade demos actually it wasn't bit rot, it wasn't pressed correctly, and we couldn't back it up. So for Project Dizzy, I will be basically backing up everything, every demo, every Lightspan, every variant, every PlayStation game that will be backed up, and I will have the cue sheets and bin sheets made available whenever that time comes. But seeing as how I'm only 2 games in, it's going to be a while. Project Farm will not be done until probably 3 years from now. I'll let you speculate on that. Project Disco will be the first project that will be able to actually be up on site and will be the first one up on site. However, Project Disco cannot be done until all of my demos are online and linked properly. And then once that's done, I can go and take care of it. And it's probably my favorite project that I'm going to be working on long term. And it's a project for the individual collectors, meaning like if you're a Mega Man fan or if you're a Tomb Raider fan, that's what Project Disco, that's who it's for, is you guys. But like I said, more on that when the time comes. So yeah, basically just rambling. I'll have a bunch of links down below of videos you guys can check out, like the 20th anniversary video. Like nothing's really changed from that. I could say the same thing, 5 years later. 5 years from the 20th anniversary is a long time. Like from that video, from the 20th anniversary video, I have a new job. I have a new living space. I have new online friends. I have a new website. I have a much larger website. I was not kidding when I said I cannot wait to see what the next 25 years bring. And I hope you'll join me for the ride. And that has been your rambling, nostalgic 25th anniversary video and Game-Rave site update. Take care, guys. Please be safe. Wear your masks. Social distance. Play some games. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next episode. Take care.